Joe Budden Podcast just pissed off their entire fan base after a recent segment on today's episode. There's been a pretty recurrent and consistent complaint when it comes to the fans about the Joe Budden Podcast. That complaint has been that the Joe Budden Podcast don't really touch on anything involving Jay-Z. If Jay-Z is in some controversy, in some drama, they don't touch it. The only time you will really see them touch anything concerning Jay-Z and Roc Nation is if they believe they have enough to defend Jay-Z. If it's some type of drama or accusation that Jay-Z is dealing with and they believe is BS, and the public opinion is, this is BS, they would jump on it to defend Jay-Z. But anything else, they won't speak on it. And that's the case with the recent news cycle with this Roc Nation and Desiree Perez thing. Desiree Perez daughter sued her for doing some pretty shicey things to her. And then Roc Nation proceeded to copyright strike and get small creators' Instagram and Twitter pages taken down. I would think that Joe Budden, who made his entire career on speaking up against the infrastructure and speaking up for little content creators, I would think that would be something that Joe Budden would touch on. They never touched on it. All the other time they've done this, the fans sort of complained and forgot about it. This time around, the fan complaints was so loud that they were forced to address it on the podcast. People were pissed because at some point it feels like, okay, like our favorite podcast is compromised, man. So fans were loud enough, it forced them to address it. And when they addressed it, it only made things worse. Because I feel like the conversation they was having was super disingenuous.
You've been one of the guys that gone against the machine, and then now they're saying, no, not they're saying, as you being the person that did it, now they're saying that we up here may be afraid to speak on Roc Nation and the things that's talked about that's going surrounding it. What is your outlook on that?
Queen's Flip being autistically innocent is the only reason why we got this segment today. Queen's Flip don't know no better. He don't understand. The conversation he's trying to have is a very dangerous one for him. Now, Joe Budden and Mark Lamont Hill and everybody else, they are a tad bit more astute, a tad bit more, corrupted. So when Queen Flip brings this up as kind of like that innocent child, you could see the sharks go to work almost immediately, bro. All right? Almost immediately.
I'm on the same type of time you want. So, meaning I don't speak on if I have a relationship. I can identify. If I have a relationship with somebody, I'm not speaking on it because I don't want to. Right. Regardless of how egregious it may come off, I'm not going to speak on it because I respect my relationship.
I saw Ack say that. I didn't see nobody else say that.
This is one of my tricks, bro. Shout out to Joe, man. You can't hate the player, man. Gotta hate the game, okay? Not the player. When I don't want to talk about something, I act like it's completely irrelevant, bro. What? Who said it, huh? Bro, I ain't hear that. I think only one person said it somewhere, bro. Joe knows this conversation extended beyond DJ Akademiks. Joe knows his entire Twitter community was talking about this. But Joe is trying to let Queen's Flip know the soft way, bro. Relax, bro. We can't talk about them. What are you doing? But once Queen's Flip broached the subject, now the other host, who probably don't know no better, the next one who I think is also autistically innocent, is Ice. Ice really took away the go-to move, which is, this is irrelevant. I've never heard about this from Joe. Because Ice then reiterated what Queen's Flip said and also said, bro, Joe, like, this has been a recurring theme. I've seen it all this week. How did you not see it? So once it becomes almost impossible to avoid, then they began to have the conversation with just a bunch of deflection.
I'm gonna be honest. I saw it with people tagging posts before he posted that. Like, yo, y'all not gonna talk about this? I saw it.
There was specific topics that they feel like we avoided.
Yes.
Roc Nation. And I just want to hear from you how you look at that, Joe.
It's a good question. Maybe I'd be far removed from. My brain be so different from what the internet is saying.
We don't know.
In my brain, the Desiree story broke while we were still recording, to me.
Yes.
At this point, I would respect the podcast more if they just said, hey, listen, man, we can't speak on it, bro, because we don't want no smoke. But
yeah, that's cap. So you just saying you ain't seen none of this stuff. That is Joe Budden Podcast compromise. Chat, y'all drop it in the comments. I would love to hear y'all opinion. Let's keep going.
Getting circles and giving excuses in circles to me is just crazy, right? That doesn't make sense. The Joe Budden Podcast film multiple episodes a week, Patreons, YouTube. It doesn't make sense. If you wanted to speak on it, you would speak on it, bro. There's been discussions of subjects that broke where you guys literally, like, this will break, let's say, the last day of filming this week, and y'all speak on it the following week. So for you guys to say, oh, we didn't speak on it because it happened the last time we were filming, cut it out, bro. Cut it out. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. Now, it went from that to, I guess, it became pretty evident that excuse wouldn't cut it. Then they jumped to the next excuse of, hey, listen, man, I don't speak on people and their kids' drama, which is clearly not true because Joe gets called out by Ice, who gave an example of Joe Budden speaking on people and their kids' drama. And then Joe gets upset because he feels like Ice was chasing a gotcha moment.
That's Hove's company, and I do have a certain respect for him.
There we go.
I don't know. I don't have a relationship with Desiree. I've never met Desiree. I don't have any equity there.
Okay.
So She's in the news now in a story that I'm sure we'll get to at some point. But that story just broke.
But why? But why? But Joe,
and even that, I do have a certain type of, pardon me, Mark, a certain type of sensitivity to speaking about any story with anybody's children.
I agree. What I was going to say, like, why would you report
I want to be very clear on that. That's not a Rock Nation thing. Anybody story that include their kids and how they going about parenting or not parenting, I let that play out. I don't rush to. I don't rush to get to that.
I can't let you do that.
Do it.
We didn't do that with Brian McKnight kids.
Stop it.
You didn't.
That's facts.
That is the truth. My nigga.
Do you have another example?
I'm just giving you an example. You said any story with anybody's kids, you just let it play out.
Brian McKnight.
And rest in peace.
Brian McKnight. Nico we'll get to later. I hate when y'all do that. When we making like a profound point and y'all bring up something that's just ass cheek stupid. Brian McKnight denied kids and wanted nothing to do with his kids. I have a stance on that.
Dog,
I'm just telling you where I stand. I have a loud stance on people that want absolutely zero to do with their kids.
Brian McKnight.
But hold up though. We got this one on the other side. Well, if you got a stance on somebody not wanting to do something with their kids, well, you don't have a stance with somebody causing mental health, bodily harm, and ruining their kids' lives. You gotta stop. You moving the goalposts, Joe. You moving the goalposts, and the simple fact that you got mad when your co-host kept bringing it up tells me everything I need to know. Let's keep going.
Argue that it's more complicated than that. I'm not defending Brian McKnight because I think his son just died of cancer, and apparently they didn't reconcile before the son died of cancer, and he knew the son had cancer. So Brian McKnight is a terrible human being. I'm not defending him. I'm saying Brian McKnight would probably tell you, it's more complicated than that. My kids were manipulated, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So your stance should apply to Brian McKnight. If you're not going to speak on people in their family drama or people in their children drama because you don't do it, then it shouldn't only apply to Rock Nation and his personalities. It should apply to everyone, but it doesn't, and that's the problem. So it went from, I guess, Joe don't speak on people and their children to apparently Desiree Perez ain't famous enough to speak on, right? The Executive of the Year winner ain't famous enough for the Joe Budden podcast to speak on.
I hate this gotcha moment.
Not no gotcha moment,
don't
bro.
make no sense.
It ain't no gotcha
Brian
moment,
McKnight
bro.
wanted nothing to do with his kids. Ain't claiming his kids even in death freeze. Please leave me alone right now.
Talking about
Brian McKnight and Desiree Perez are not the same.
I didn't say they're the same.
Then why the f*** are we talking about Brian McKnight?
Sometimes we don't even want that. Like, come on, bro.
That's hilarious.
Go ahead, Mark.
I think that's hilarious. What do they have to do with I'm saying?
Nothing to do with nothing, Joe. Go ahead, Mark.
Why you mad?
Freeze, I think you're right. I think we do talk about kids, and I think you're
We
right.
do. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's important, though. So I think a better statement might be that it's certain kinds of conversations we have and certain kinds we don't. For me, one thing is it just about this person's business or does it advance a bigger story? Like, for example, the only reason Vanessa Bryant was interested in me today was because we had a whole conversation that was bigger, right? That was bigger than her. So that even after we knew the story wasn't true, it was still worth talking about. To me, Brian McKnight's story is worth talking about because of all the shit that comes with parenting and children. Also, he's on social media talking about his kids too, which is different than Dez, who's not on camera saying, "Hey, this thing happened to me." So I think that's different too. So for me, and the Dez story to me is only interesting if we're going to report on it.
I agree,
and I don't think that's what we do here.
Y'all,
Hold up. Did he just call her Dez? I don't call anybody their nickname unless I know him personally. Like Joe Budden, I wouldn't just say like the Bud situation. I would call him Joe Budden because I don't know you personally. So that tells me everything I need to know. Dez, I never even thought to call her Desiree. I mean Dez. I was always calling her Desiree this whole time. So you call her Dez. And the podcast doesn't want to talk about her. Interesting. Let's keep going, y'all. Dez.
Sit on that podcast and gossip with no restrictions about everybody else's stuff. Now, all of a sudden, when it comes to a particular person, all of a sudden there's different rules of, man, when we talk about a story, man, we talk about the bigger point. The story got to have a real meaning. We got to be able to psychoanalyze the depth of, man, cut it out, bro. Those rules only apply to certain people. And I feel like the fans is watching this and they were getting angry, which is why a lot of backlash came from this, because they understand, bro, they're being BS, bro. Like, it's nonsense. What do you mean? You're not going to talk about this story because what? Like, the story has to have a deeper meaning. And if you talk on this story, it feels like it's not a big story. You guys are reporting. Of course y'all report on things. Y'all talk about things that haven't been confirmed. Y'all talk about things that aren't really a big, in-depth story. But this story is an in-depth story. This story does have a bigger meaning. This is a story of a woman who is trying to silence creators because they were speaking on something that she felt is unfavorable to her. sending copyright strikes, using DMCA, using big attorneys to terrorize creators. That's not a big enough story for you guys, right? That's not a... Cut it out, bro. Or her daughter suing her, accusing her of similar things that give ties back to Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion. It's like, come on, man. They can't make it any more obvious.
Yeah, that is very obvious because at this point, if you ain't gonna talk about Desiree Perez and her situation, Joe Budden Podcast, you're not allowed to no longer speak on the Tory Lanez situation and Tory Lanez news. You want to still talk about Tory Lanez news, right? That's gonna get you clicks and views. Don't talk about it no more because this Desiree Perez situation ties into the Tory Lanez situation tenfold. So if you ain't gonna talk about the Desiree Perez situation and Rock Nation, don't talk about Tory Lanez no more. You gonna keep talking about Tory, then speak on Desiree Perez or just shut up all the way through. That's what it is. Keep going.
Is here, bruh. I don't know if the checks is clearing. I don't know if the threats is coming in, but this is out of control.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I do think there's
But
a
there is a
distinction there.
conversation there how far you willing to go to protect your child or to protect your children. That's a conversation.
Yeah, we could have that conversation, but I'm saying I don't think it's. But the narrative on the internet is like y'all are running from that story. It's like, well, that's not a story that I think needs to be told. Me personally,
The narrative on the internet is anything Hov/Rock Nation
That's the narrative.
related, we won't touch.
Hov got
and that's
sued,
not
we
true.
talk- yeah, right.
That's just not true.
That's not true.
But that's the narrative. They
Yeah.
make it seem like we all up here, we claim Hovengers, we love Hov, et cetera, et cetera. So we're afraid of Hov. We can't say anything.
That's it. I'm unfamiliar with the story, but is the story like something that should not have, it's not meant for public consumption and just it got leaked or whatever?
No, it's on the news.
No,
it's on the news.
It's out.
I understand that,
The
but
daughter sued her. It's out.
got it.
Yeah. I just don't think to me, it's not about the music business. It's not about black culture. It's just a story about this person who happens to be famous. Were she not famous, we'd have no interest in that story. That to me is why we don't talk about
They're
it.
Also,
only-
not
they're
particularly. The only reason why people care about it is because she's affiliated with Rock Nation.
Yes,
I'm sure
right.
that's
So
a
why
lot
is
of
it?
to say because
That's it.
she's not
She's not
necessarily
famous. She's an exec somewhere.
That's it.
Like,
That's all. That's
This is disgusting.
That is disgusting. That's not the story. The story is her daughter's suing her for all the stuff that we were saying is being done to Tory Lanez. The same things that got done to Tory Lanez, her mom did the same things to her. So Tory Lanez's situation isn't a secluded situation. It's not just a one-off. No, these are tactics and things, allegedly. Everything I'm saying is alleged that Rock Nation does. That's the story. Everything seems like the conspiracy theory. Until you look at what happened to Tory Lanez, till you look at how they handle Megan Thee Stallion, till you look at how they handle Rihanna, till you look at now how they handle Halle Bailey. Halle Bailey's being exposed, Megan Thee Stallion is being exposed, and now the daughter has a lawsuit saying everything that they done to these men in this situation is the same thing they did to her. That's the story. So no, it's not she's not an executive, she's not really famous. No, it's about the simple fact that Tory Lanez is now in jail. He just almost got stabbed to death when all of this information was about to come out. And now we have the daughter corroborating everything that Tory, DDG, Chris Brown was saying was being done to them. It now has validity through the daughter. Allegedly. Everything I'm saying is alleged. You know, they sending DMCs out, they sending copyright strikes out, trying to silence creators just like me, because I stand on business. Shout out Poetik Flakko. He stand on business too. If you see something wrong, speak on it. But yes, the Joe Budden podcast at this point is compromised. Nothing they should say you should listen to. At this point, they're compromised. They're puppets. Imagine Joe Budden as a puppet and Rock Nation has his hand going up their back telling them what to say. They're puppets. And honestly, Joe Budden gets a pass and people be on Flakko, but Flakko's standing on business and he's standing on principles right now. He believes something's wrong, much like me, and we speaking on it, which is very courageous because you up against people that are literally, allegedly unaliving people and setting people up to go to jail for tens of years. But they supposed to be tied in with the NFL to help black people, but no, they was getting black people to stop boycotting. They supposed to be tied in with the NBA because they think basketball dope. No, they was just trying to get that stadium built for Brooklyn. You say these is people that say that they love the black man, but everything they doing is against the black man and to get the black man coerced into destruction. I'm gonna speak on it. All this is alleged, but I'm gonna speak on it. I got like, this is me in real life. This is just, I stand on business. This is just what it is. All right, so it's your boy, What's Up, G? I'm gonna say this right now. Joe Budden Podcast is they're puppets. They're puppets. They're definitely, it seems like they're receiving money from Rock Nation. You know, or they're just scared. And if you're scared and you're in media, you shouldn't be in media, or your voice shouldn't have a big impact. Maybe at one point his voice had an impact, but I know me personally, I'm taking that voice back, and I think you know, I let everybody else decide if they should also. But I don't listen to cowards. So I would have to say Joe Budden is in my opinion, is a coward. All right. So it's your boy, What's Up, G? I think nobody told you they love y'all. I love y'all. I'm out with y'all. And it's the same stuff I would say to his face.